2026, one of my favorite kind of fashion trends to watch and kind of evolve would be what I'm calling new classicism.
Meet Melissa Moylan, globally respected fashion trend forecaster, has been at the forefront of predicting what the world will wear for over 2 decades. Her expertise has been featured in WWD, The Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur, and Vogue Business.
I think that the way that we dress, it's language without saying a word. Many people don't even realize the emotions when they're choosing something in the morning. Things that I feel excited about is what's being called the discovery economy. More about kind of finding your own unique style.
Mindset shift have you noticed, particularly post-pandemic, in how we choose clothing?
The other one that came out of the pandemic was this dopamine dressing. One of my favorite ones that I think we're experiencing right now is called little treat culture. And this is really the evolution of the lipstick effect.
Do we dress more for who we are or who we aspire to be? So how can listeners strike that right balance between following trends and staying authentic to their personal style or authentic style? From your forecasting lens, what's one trend you think should keep an eye on in 2026 and why? Namaste and hello to everyone. Welcome to India's first and only podcast dedicated to image, presence, and style in fashion psychology. I'm your host, Ruchi Raj, a fashion technologist turned image coach and founder of Poised Presence. In this space, we don't just talk fashion, we explore identity and the science behind it, the art of intentional dressing and first impressions, and bring learnings from experts all around the globe. And today's episode is extra special because this is with someone who is extra special to me personally. So we are joined by someone who has not only watched the world of fashion evolve, she has been a part in shaping it. Meet Melissa Moylan, a globally respected fashion trend forecaster, has been at the forefront of predicting what the world will wear for over 2 decades across New York, Paris, and Los Angeles. She spent 18 years of her life as VP and creative director of women's wear at Future Snoops, which was formerly Fashion Snoops. And that's how we met. Guiding trend direction for major brands and retailers. Today, she teaches, consults, and speaks on the deeper connections between fashion and culture. Her expertise has been featured in WWD, The Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur, and Vogue Business. But today, we are not just talking about fashion. We are diving into the true heartbeat behind any fashion and trend, the psychology of what we wear. This isn't about trends for the sake of trends. It's about the psychology behind them, what they reveal about our emotional needs, confidence, and maybe self-image to some extent, and the stories we tell the world through our appearances. And of course, we'll also get Melissa's expert lens on how to balance what's trending and what's truly, and they're truly what's which feels who you are. So whether you're someone who loves fashion, someone who overthinks getting dressed, for curious minds who want to understand the why behind their choices, or someone simply wants to feel more yourself in what you wear, this episode is going to speak to you. So without further ado, I would love to address the first question to Melissa. So, and it is a little bit about you, your personal journey, and because we all would love to know about your journey into it. So you have shaped 2 decades you have almost spent 2 decades shaping and reading global trends. What initially drew you to trend forecasting and what continues to excite you to, in fact, today, in a different phase of life?
Well, Ruchi, first of all, thank you for such a warm, wonderful welcome. And it's fantastic to be with you today and speaking on behalf of, my background in fashion forecasting, but more importantly, where it all comes from. So, to attempt to answer your question about my background in trend forecasting, so I was a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, studying fashion merchandising, and I had previous experience in buying in showroom sales as well as public relations. And while those were all fantastic and they were all internships while I was still studying, what I realized about myself is that I have both a creative mind, but also a business centric mind. And I found that it was a really unique way that I perceive the world. And fashion forecasting really affords me to leverage both of those aspects. So that's how I got into the fashion forecasting at the beginning of my career. It was also around, I'll date myself, it was around the 2000s when online trend forecasting was new. And it was very different than what it is today. Back then, we used to have these digital cameras with a giant flip screen and going around into stores taking photos because there was no brand or retailer website back then. So we were the eyes of creators, brands, retailers around the world that said to us, we may be based in New York City, but we want to know what's going on in Tokyo as well as London as well as Milan at the same time. So that was something that I helped afford in the early 2000s. I managed a team of over 50 researchers in major cities across the world. And then I grew from there. But that mesh of both the creative and business, that I think is what has made me most successful in my career.
Wow, when I hear that, I just feel like, how beautiful it is that there was so much of groundwork and human interaction back then. And it was all, bringing every mind together into something and then actually being on the ground to research and 50 team of 50 for just researching what's going on. That must have been fun too, I must say. I know it's tough because I think that time even coordination and all those things were not that handy as today. So I'm sure it would have been a challenge, but it would have been a great pleasure
It
working
was
with.
definitely a different time. I mean, I remember even taking photos of people on the street that were wearing amazing outfits back then. So that was the type of on the ground research that I would do. And I think that you have to have that even today that we're so digitally connected. And that's also very essential for, young people that are going through university, that they have to have a pulse on what's happening and TikTok trends, and they need to know that. But also, there's an element of on the ground, in person, what's happening at retail, because I think retail, as a buying and merchandising person, that always roots me and I always go back to that. And it's wonderful also to see a lot of Gen Z that are excited about going to retail spaces, even though it's not for like a transactional reason, right? Like they're going in and they want the experience, they want the community, and then that'll turn into something. But it's definitely a different world that we live in today, and it's been fantastic to kind of grow throughout that and evolve my career with the market shifts.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great observation that yes, it does exist today itself. It's just that the mediums, or maybe you can say the intent or the lens, that has changed. But yes, we are humans and we continue to do that exploration physically, going into stores. And yeah, we'll talk more about it. And of course, all the wisdom that you bring from, that era to this era, which is that time to this time, and how it transitioned. But before that, one more question, which is more about you, is when did you first realize clothing and psychology are deeply connected? When was that first click that happened to you?
I feel like for me, it feels like something that's always been inherent in a way. But thinking back, I feel like for me, it was high school that I really realized that this is, because you're forming your own identity, then you have a little bit more freedom that you did prior in your childhood. And at the time, this is the 90s, which again, really dating myself today. But in the 90s, I grew up in suburban Philadelphia, in the United States. And there, almost the entire high school was wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. And I could not run far enough away from Abercrombie and Fitch. I wouldn't have a single piece from there, because at that time I'm like, no. I was really getting into fashion, and I wanted clothing that was unique and original, and most importantly to me, no one else was going to have it. So, so I was very fortunate too that my parents would take me to New York City. We would go shopping, and there I was able to, score these pieces that I knew no one else would have. I would definitely get made fun of them, because they were different, they were odd, they were not Abercrombie whatsoever. But I think that's when, my perception of, self was formed, and also just this individuality and individual style that I was creating. And this is who I am. It's different from everybody else that's from the town that I'm from, and I use it as a way to position myself, but also to really differentiate myself.
Oh wow. So yeah, it was back then, and I think it's a form of you feel liberated when you
Yes.
express in your style, and especially that time when you're actually exploring yourself with the little bit of freedom, little bit of exposure that you have got. So and I think that makes it really long since the time you have been believing in this concept of how it's not just what we wear, but it psychologically impacts us. So yeah, let's talk further about it. I
Mhm.
can't really wait more to get into the deeper aspects of it. So how would you explain the psychology of what we wear in simple terms? Do we dress more for who we are or who we aspire to be?
So I always go back to, I think, one of the first things that I remember learning at FIT, and it was a little bit broader than just the clothes themselves. So it was more like a take on fashion. And I really believe, and this is what I remember learning early on at FIT, is that fashion is such a reflection of the times. So you're dressing for what's going on. It could be something that's personal to you, but it could also be much bigger than you. It could be a movement, um, you know, economic, political uproar, and that inspiring moments. And we've seen that, over the course of like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and what drove, those really distinct styles. But I think that today it's much more individualist based, and you are dressing as a reflection of yourself. This is how you're presenting yourself to the world. I think that there's some instances where, of course, you're going to maybe dress a way that you aspire to be. If you're going on a job interview, if you're going on a first date, if you're attending a special occasion, then you're going to maybe advance your style a little bit more or get out of your comfort zone. But in most cases, I do think that people today are dressing, for themselves, as opposed to maybe something that's a little bit bigger and broader.
Yeah, that is so true because people are becoming more aware about themselves and what they like, what they don't like. Even if I believe I also noticed that even if uh, going with the current trend, still people are trying to connect uh, with themselves and then align that trend with them. And I think we'll talk more about this as well, that how to have that right balance
Right.
without feeling overwhelmed about including anything new or anything. As you said, that fashion is also a story that goes on with the timeline. So how to create that right balance with that story and your authentic self. So Amazing. I think yes, it's a lot about who you aspire to be, who you are. And one thing which I would love to also hear from you on that one thing I think what personally I really want to believe is we should be very much aligning with who we are in now and not who I was in past maybe,
Right.
or who I'll be in future, but what I am now. And I think reflecting that makes us feel empowered and enabled more.
There's a lot of emotions tied to it. And I think that many people don't even realize the emotions when they're choosing something in the morning. If it's just an ordinary day, I think that it's not even a conscious thing that goes through their minds. Like, today I'm going to dress for, unless, again, it is an occasion. And in that case, I think you're a little bit more attuned to the vision or the message that you want to channel. But on an ordinary day, I think it's very emotional based, the way that we're dressing. And there's also a lot less rules now, too. So I think that that's also something that, looking back historically, where there were more rules just about what women could wear, what women can't wear, for example. And now it's like we have the permission, and it is how you want to embody yourself and put yourself out there to the world.
That's a truly insightful point. That yes, now it has become more about expression,
Mhm.
and yes. All right. So from I think you spoke about the emotional side of things. But if we want to name a few, from your experience, what are the strongest emotional triggers that influence our style choices, consciously or subconsciously? So anything on that particularly?
I think both consciously and unconsciously, I would put comfort up there as number one. That's such a driver because even if, say that you're dressing professionally for the workplace and you're going to put on a pair of trousers, the ones that you're going to select more times than not, you may or may not realize it, but often the fit is going to be a driving factor. But what does the fit really evoke? It's comfortability at the end of the day, I think. You'll also, of course, within the realm of comfort, you also want to consider the materials that are behind it, which again, that might be a more subconscious thing that you're not thinking, these are my comfy like pants that I'm gonna, but the material, if it feels good, then that's a no-brainer. So I feel like comfort above all is something that, consumers and, myself personally, that we consider when we're putting something on. Even some beautiful pieces, because I'm a fashion person, so I've got the trendy pieces, right, in my wardrobe, as I'm sure you do too. But I've got pieces that, for example, like a burnout, beautiful Ula Johnson burnout top. It is itchy. And it's beautiful, but because it's just, oh, like there's something about it. It's not a piece that I'm going to go to. It's going to be like a one, a kind of special piece that I put off there. I still love it. But there's something about it because I'm like, oh, like it just doesn't feel that great, especially if you're going to be in it all day long, right? So I think for me, it comes down to comfort now, which I think is great because that also means that we do have a lot of options that are more comfortable, I think, than they used to be.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and being comfortable, you rightly said, is like, uh, that's something that we buy subconsciously, we just hop onto, especially when we want to just feel free and be in the flow of yourself. So yes, special occasions, that's a different story. But when we want to be ourselves in that free flowing motion of ourselves, I think yes, the brain just directs us towards that comfortable piece, and maybe washing it daily, but you're just going for it because you want to feel comfortable. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's I think that's one of the primary things for emotional triggers rather, for picking anything that we pick in our style. So okay, so I think it's in this continuation, maybe going a little bit more detailed about other aspects, that how do unconscious cues like colors, textures, or silhouettes shape our mood without us even realizing it.
So I think a couple of those. First, I would put color in more of a conscious recognition when we're choosing our style, because that's something that I think most people do know what colors they tend to look good in. They'll also typically, I think, when there is the special occasion that you're dressing for, they know maybe what color that they're going for. So I think that there's a little bit more cognizance that comes along with choosing colors, even if it's on the daily and you might stick to a range or neutrals, for example, that you always just rely on, and that's steady and that's fine. Some of the other aspects that you mentioned, when it comes to fit, I mean, I think that's also paramount, because that's how you feel when you're in it. You probably need to move. I mean, although a lot of us are behind desks, you want something, I think, that there's something about fit that it needs to address a really flexible lifestyle. Many of us are going from, maybe we're going from a Pilates class, and then we're going to the office, and then we're going to a meeting, and then we're going to, work dinner afterwards. And so we need something that could accommodate all of the above. I feel like a lot of designers have this in their press releases that, oh, it could transcend from day to night. And a lot of times you take it with a grain of salt, because it doesn't, you kind of look at what they come up with and you're like, really? I don't know. I think I'm maybe only wearing that at night. I'm not wearing that to the office. So that's interesting. But I think that, fit is really important to accommodate flexible lifestyles. There's also, the material component. That's another one that I feel like is so important, because it's how good you feel when you're in it. Sometimes you want to be in, especially, in the cooler months, you want to be in something that just feels like you're wrapped up in, in a warm, cozy sweater. It feels like you're getting a hug from your sweater. And so it's really interesting, I think, how all of those elements, from color to materials to fit, they all are a part of kind of how both our conscious and or subconscious are deciding and making these decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah, and it's a wonder how, without even knowing or realizing, we decide on so many things, so many aspects. Like, we don't even know. I mean, if you talk to someone and they're like, I don't know anything about fashion, I'm not much concerned. But the core of it, that they are making decisions based on these aspects too,
Right.
even if they don't know. And that's so beautiful, and in itself, like a so intriguing, that how it's just there in our minds, and it just, even though we think maybe we are not that much fashion person or style person, but you're just making those decisions. Even if you're wearing a white shirt every day, there is a decision that you have made based on these aspects.
Absolutely.
So,
You don't have to be a fashion person, because we're all wearing clothes at the end of the day, and it becomes
yeah.
almost a very human decision. And what you or I as fashion people would decide what we're wearing, maybe we have a little bit more of an understanding behind it, but at the end of the day, I think we still want the same goals as anyone else.
Yes.
We want
Yeah.
to feel good, we want to feel confident, and exude. It's a reflection of yourself. It's honestly,
Yeah.
I think that the way that we dress, it's language without saying a word, right?
Yeah, that's
You
that's
even get in the
exactly,
door.
that is something which I just, it's a spot on, that it's a reflection, definitely. I always say, whenever like I get the chance to in sessions, that the way the soul lives in our body, I think we stay in our clothes. And it has to be a part of our personality. It has to be something that's that reflects us from within. And that's why this alignment is so important. And hence we notice that when we are not, when we are wearing something that maybe it's not a part of me, maybe after an hour, 2 hour, few minutes, we just don't feel uh, natural in it, right? And
Right.
that's how,
You can't wait to get home and get out of it.
yes,
We don't
and
want
just you
those. We
exactly. So
want
that's,
something. We want the pieces that we're going to love and live in the whole day. And then
and feels like
iron-
you. Yeah. So when you said that, that's a reflection that totally brought back all the points that I always used to believe in, and I really want, and I really wish people know more and become aware of this. I think people know it's more about being aware and realizing that they know it. So, and that is how we try to talk and bring out those unspoken topics that help people question, oh yes, we, or reflect that, oh yes, we do it on daily basis, it's not new,
yes.
and we all are part of it.
And it's great because it contributes to the concept of just building a wardrobe. Because when a consumer is just more conscious of maybe the why behind why they picked what they picked or why they love what they love, when you have that, then you could build out their wardrobe in a way that makes more sense, as opposed to, maybe hitting those trend pieces that, okay, like it checks the box for it is on trend. Maybe it's not them, and that's okay. You know,
Yes,
no one should be wearing all the trends. So it should
yes,
really be a conscious, curated vision that just evokes who you are as a person.
yes, yes, and that, yeah, rightly said. And I think that's sustainable also,
Mhm.
because you can sustain that for longer, you will be loving them for longer, you will connect yourself with all the things that you have in your wardrobe for longer. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that. All right, this question is a little bit different in terms of understanding something that we all have faced. So, and since you have been a part of the trend forecasting for ins and outs of all the phases, so what mindset shift have you noticed, particularly post pandemic, in how we choose clothing? Is there any psychological shift there, or I would say functional shift? But is there anything that you would love to share on that aspect of?
Absolutely. So, to kind of bridge what we had just mentioned and the idea of helping consumers build their own wardrobe. So, post pandemic, we were all shut down. We're reevaluating everything, right? And as the fashion industry is also addressing this. We are, the amount of waste that the fashion industry makes is just, astounding. It's not good. We need to do better. And so everyone's kind of assessing it. Like, what do we do? How do we address that? So there was a lot more conversation around sustainability, but then it's like, well, how do we do that? Because we've got fast fashion. And one of the things that I really truly still believe in today is just having a more sustainable wardrobe, a wardrobe that you're building upon. So think of it as building blocks. You've got that favorite trouser that you're going to wear. You've got that cozy cardigan that's also great for your cooler months. You've got a couple dresses built in, but really leveraging that and building off of it. And so that kind of notion of wardrobing and building on classic essential pieces becomes much more interesting. And that was also the conversation of quiet luxury, which I think continues to evolve too, because it's like, okay, well, maybe instead of buying all of these trend driven pieces, what's a smarter approach is I'm going to buy less but better. So, okay, we could spend a little bit more, but if we're gonna have that piece in our wardrobe for a while, and I think I am sure you feel the same way. I've got pieces in my wardrobe when people ask, "Oh, is that new?" I'm like, "No, this is really old. It's like 15 years old," or and it's like a sense of pride. It feels good. So that's one shift that I feel like building on wardrobe essentials and that concept of wardrobing is really important. Another one that came out of the pandemic was this dopamine dressing, which was okay, everything is doom and gloom, but we could still have a good time. We could we could wear a really bright color. And it's interesting because it kind of tracks this reality of dressing in the midst of different economic shifts. We've seen, that dopamine dressing. That's an example that I think we saw soon thereafter of the pandemic. But we've also seen things now that are like apocalyptic dressing, like really tough leather like armor to primal furs, and like seeing those as almost a direct reaction of things that are happening economically around the world, and just a sensation that all of us are feeling these things. Again, you might not be so cognizant of this is why I chose to wear red lipstick today, or you might not be, oh, this is why I actually did need a trench coat in my wardrobe. You might not realize all those things, but those are, shifts that I think that what I do as a trend forecaster, you kind of evaluate what's happening culturally, and then you make it make sense in fashion, and then hopefully produce some garments out there and collections that will resonate with consumers as they build their own wardrobes.
Yeah, right. I think uh, all the things that you mentioned, when I think now and I resonate, they were actually need of the hour. Even we were feeling it at those times, and it's like how we were reflecting those inside feelings in what we want in our clothes and how we are representing. So I love the mention of the dopamine dressing, because that's one of the things I would say I feel myself as an expert in, is like I want to help people with image and appearance, but following the concepts of dopamine dressing, because one thing that we all need to know and should know is that one little first aid that you can give to yourself any point in time is right there in your wardrobe. So it's just about knowing it, owning it, and using it when needed. And that can be that little dopamine hit that you can get with maybe the tiniest of the pieces in it. But it's just that if we know about it, I think it can be like a great booster of your mood, yourself. And so Melissa, I think I talked to you on this about my journey into it and how it helped. So when I was not keeping well, almost for like 6 7 months, I was bedridden and all those things. And I think one thing that I suddenly one day realized that nothing is in my control right now. What is that I can do that is still in my control? And that was just looking good, maybe wearing things that make me feel look good in the mirror. And I did that. And it just, I knew about fashion, I knew about how it works, I knew the technicalities, the industry. But that anchor from within, that kind of gives you that signal that it's much beyond. It's not just what you see. And that is when I realized the power of clothing and how empowered you feel with the choices that resonate with you. And especially at the times when maybe you're not feeling good, maybe you need someone or something to boost your self image or from within, it's a great medicine that you
Yes,
can give
I,
to
I
yourself. So,
absolutely echo the sentiment of fashion being empowering, because I think and
yes,
it doesn't have to necessarily be the dopamine hit. It doesn't have to be something that's bright, and maybe for us it is.
yes,
Okay. But
yes,
for others, it doesn't have to be that loud. It could be an accessory, it could be a handbag, a pair of shoes that you're just, they just make you feel good.
Even something like an innerwear that makes them feel good, it doesn't even need to show. It has to be just something that makes you feel good. And I think finding those pieces is the most fun and the exploration part. Once you find them, you are just good to go, having them anywhere that you are. So
Definitely.
yes, you're right. It's not just about bright colors or textures or any such. It's about what makes you feel good. It could be like simple shades of white or neutrals or the beiges, but it's just what makes you feel good in it. So beautiful. I think I love all the, and it's very interesting to know that how we don't even think, but everything that's happening in the world. Of course, pandemic was a global phenomena, event that happened, but in general, like regionally or country wise, if things are happening, it actually impacts the choices and the trends and the fashion that's going around, and it's just so much interlinked. It's so interesting. I'm sure you can just talk day and night on this of how trends come into picture. But yeah, it's I think this example really helped us understand that how the core of everything is humans, and the core of every style fashion design that comes is the human emotions that we are going through and the situations.
It truly
So
does. I think also just putting it, and it's important that we address that we all felt that and we all had a very shared lived experience in the pandemic. And I feel like that was something that, maybe not everyone realized how connected we were, but we were united at that moment. And then like the sentiments that came out of that fashion wise and broader, it really united us. And it kind of boiled down to we all have the same human needs and human desires at the end of the day.
yeah, absolutely. Yes. All right. So yes, let's move on to the next one. And I think we are just moving towards the takeaway part two very soon. So you have studied global consumers closely. I mean, who else can be better than you on this? So, what patterns do you see in how people use clothing to express identity today? Like in today's world, uh, what do you think? Especially if we talk about some patterns that's being there. So, what is there
Sure.
to say
So,
on
so
that?
that's also a little bit more that stems into our conversation on macro shifts that we have. One of my favorite ones that I think we're experiencing right now is called little treat culture. And this is really the evolution of the lipstick effect. So, if you're not familiar with the lipstick effect, it's when the economic, economy is not doing so well that, maybe consumers don't have as much spending power, spending money, but they still feel like they could get a little treat, right? So the lipstick effect was that it would be like, okay, maybe I can't splurge on a new outfit right now, but I could get a lipstick. And so now we're seeing that in the realm of lifestyle, which I think is so interesting and just fascinating, the ways that we're seeing it from Labubus. And all of a sudden, they're not cheap, by the way, but
Yeah.
but that's a little treat. And that's actually something that, it's taking away, but it's also an attainable antidote or treat that consumers are able to, I really want that, and oh, I got this one and it's so cute and whatever it is. But even like treats as self-care. So we're seeing, yeah, it could be a lip gloss that you're getting. And I think that the beauty market, there's so many amazing brands and what they're doing to make, even I'm trying to think of Rhode, the line from Hailey Bieber, like these containers for the lip gloss is like, oh, like that's such a coveted accessory that didn't exist before. So that's interesting. And that's again something that a customer is going to splurge on. But we're even seeing it in terms of, just treats like cafes and brands that are latching on to even, the Prada cafe. And maybe you can't afford a Prada bag, but could you afford a product croissant, right? Like could you
Yeah.
buy a baked good or a coffee or a latte? So I think that's really interesting right now. In addition to addressing how we're, buying clothing and apparel, is that right now in this moment, maybe, consumers aren't spending quite as much, but they're willing to spend on these little indulgences, or even like the customer psyche is like, you know what? Maybe I had a bad day, so I need a pick me up. But maybe I had a really good day, and I need to treat myself, right? So it's
Yeah.
all of these little, kind of triggers of, our mind that we're affording ourselves, the luxury of these smaller indulgences, which I think it's really just timely for what a lot of people are facing right now. And it's like, okay, not can't buy a new outfit for this, so maybe I'm shopping my closet, but I'm gonna go treat myself too.
Wow. Oh, this is really new to me, and this is
Mhm.
something which I'm very excited to learn. And now, when I see, like, honestly, there are so many brands who are opening up their cafes, and there are
Yes.
so many, and hence now is the answer that I get. Also, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong. When you were talking about the treats and the indulgences, I also realized that maybe after COVID effect, we all are also in the thought of being in the moment and doing things that we can do right now
Yes.
rather than waiting and doing for something that, because life is unpredictable. So,
Yes.
even something that comes somewhere from that feeling of, like living in the moment so much resonates with this, of little indulgences that make you feel right, good right now. So is it?
Exactly. There's even this notion of a focus on an inch stone versus a milestone. So for
Uh,
example, if you take, our parents' generation and what they were maybe able to do, their lifestyle at the same age as which we're at right now, they were able to have things that we're maybe not able to have. So we'll do inch stone milestones. So those could also be things. And in addition to, buying the latte to treat yourself, it could be something like a concert ticket, right? It could
yes.
be, maybe you really did want to see Taylor Swift and you're going to save up to buy that concert ticket. So that becomes more like a modern inchstone, which is kind of like a new iteration or a modern iteration of a milestone, because maybe we're not getting like the big things that our parents had, or maybe that's not as important to us, but going and having this experience at, a live show, a concert, that's more meaningful.
Wow. Yeah, and it's interesting how everything shapes up the consumerism and how it shapes up what's coming in the out in the market for the audience. Thank you so much for sharing these concepts. I think they are so interesting. I'm definitely gonna read and research more now because I got intrigued, and it actually connects a lot with everything that has been going around if you think deep down. So yes, interesting. I'm gonna put the note of those concepts especially here. All right. So after speaking about the, like the conceptual side of things, we can talk about a little bit around the takeaways that can help audience, start from something small or big, whatever they want, but at least they get some starting point. That's the whole point of and of the questions that I'm gonna follow. So how can listeners strike that right balance between following trends and staying authentic to their personal style or authentic style? Any tip on that?
I think one thing that I would advise most, and when considering maybe adopting a new style, is, am I going to wear this more than once? Because you might have, and I think a lot of times, people, and myself included, you have one idea and you're going to wear this for this occasion. But do you really see yourselves wearing that more than one time? Because if you do, then okay, then you've got cause to, this could be a wardrobe builder piece, right? This could fit into your existing wardrobe. This is going to be something, and you're like, you know what? I don't. Also consider it against everything that you do have. Do you have something that's like it already? Is it something, does it bring newness, a little bit of newness to your wardrobe? So that's also a factor in there, because a lot of times I've got one of my best friends and she just buys, I feel like, very similar iterations of a similar look over and over again. And it's all very her, but the margin of difference is so small, that you're kind of like, did you really need that? So I would say,
Yeah.
like, consider the usage scenarios, consider how much you were actually going to wear a garment. What does it bring to your wardrobe that's new and different that you don't already have? And then my other one, and this is, I think most of us, we ask for a friend's opinion when we're considering buying something, or should I try this? Or what do you think? What do you think about these barrel pants? Do you think, am I really going to wear them? Are they so flattering? When you really have to ask for a second opinion, I think that's also your answer in terms of, you don't really need it. Because when you do see something or you try something on and you're just like, yes, you know. But when you're second guessing yourself, I think that's all, and we're all guilty. I'm guilty of that too. But when we go to that second, you're like, but you're kind of maybe. When you hesitate, that's your answer. You don't need that in your wardrobe. So those would be my pieces of advice that I think I try to embody, myself.
Oh wow. Thank you. I think these are very practical cues and we do this. It's just that listing them down and actually pausing and thinking that yes, the two three questions that you can just tell your mind before buying or before adding any new piece can really help being more aligned towards your authentic and personal self. So yeah, thank you so much, these are really
Of
helpful.
course, I need to put them into action too, because
Yes.
I'm just as guilty as, like, oh, I really like that, and then you wear it the one time and you're like, oh, but then I'm gonna resell it. So so I've got my little sustainability loop going there.
Yeah. No, that's something which we can at least start with. I mean, of course, it takes time, it takes efforts and a lot of exploration too. But at least we can start questioning ourselves and get into that direction of mindful shopping.
Yeah.
I love to put that in that way. So yeah. Okay, now this is one of the problems which majority of women face
Mhm.
is why do so many women feel that they have nothing to wear, and what's the simplest fix that you would love to give as an advice?
Well, again, I'm equally as guilty of this. And and also when there's an event, I feel like you're just like, because there's something about having something that's new that you're excited about. And that's just the nature of consumerism, I think. Um, but at the same time, I feel like when you get to the point that you're like, oh, like, I don't have anything, I have nothing to wear, and you open your closet and it's completely full. How about picking out some pieces? Not, this doesn't have to be like I love, because at this point, if we're already thinking we don't have anything, let's just pick out a couple things that we like. Okay? Pick out a couple things that we like, and then maybe let's try to style them differently than how we've worn them before, because I think that's so key. And that's something that I'll do in my wardrobe as well. That it's like, okay, I had this, maybe I didn't wear it in a little while, and I bring it back. So but that's also very personal too, that I feel like I have these pieces. Maybe sometimes I'm not going to wear them as much, but I'm going to recycle them and wear them eventually. But I think that if you get to the point that you just say, okay, let me pick out a couple of things that I like, and then let me try to pair them differently. Let me try this blouse with a skirt instead of pants, or instead of jeans. And try to see how that looks. And that's a great way that you're not spending money. You're not buying something new. You don't have to buy something new all the time. We probably have everything that we need in our wardrobe. I know, it's kind of a bummer for myself to hear that too. But but if you are going and kind of shopping your own wardrobe and trying to make it feel new and fresh and different, almost as if imagine, you come into my wardrobe, I come into your wardrobe. We're going to put things together that we probably haven't worn ourselves, right? Haven't worn that look together yet. So almost like trying to find a couple good pieces, try to reconfigure it in a way to restyle your wardrobe. So I would say that that's probably my best advice of, especially if you're not going to go shopping right now. I feel like I have nothing to wear. Let's get in there. Let's find some good pieces and let's try to make it work. Or even like footwear. You're pairing it. You always used to wear this one dress with boots. You know what? I'm gonna wear it with a sandal this time or whatever it is. And just something as simple as that could update it in a way that's still gonna feel a little bit newer and fresher to you.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's I think that's super insightful because you went core to it that why we get so many things and yet we don't have is we need that newness, we need that difference. We all are very fond of being trying something new and different and looking different. So it's like understanding the root and then figuring out on solutions. So yes, I think that's a great advice, Melissa. Thank you again for all the wonderful advices, and I think the practical advices that you're giving, which is very handy and which is very much doable and right away. It's not even like you need a lot of preparations to go for it. It's something that you can start today. So thanks a lot again.
Of course.
So we'll move quickly to the next one, that from your forecasting lens, what's one trend you think everyday consumers should keep an eye on in 2026 and why?
Okay, so again, and also just reiterating kind of what you just mentioned too, that I tend to, even though I think you and we both have a really high level and appreciation for fashion, we're also very rooted and grounded at the same time. And so in that vein, I feel like for 2026, one of my favorite kind of fashion trends to watch and kind of evolve would be what I'm calling new classicism. So this is kind of a result of there's so many TikTok aesthetics, right? So we've heard of this kind of like death of cool that's happening right now, and it's really like a fatigue of there's so many micro trends. Like it's too much and it's too burdensome, and even amongst Gen Z, it's like they're confused, honestly, like trying to figure it out. So I feel like we're seeing more authenticity through these almost like staples, these emotional safety items or products like tailoring or denim. And we've seen this also very much on a luxury level. So, like the recent Celine show, Bottega Veneta, this is very much aligned with like Ralph Lauren, Preppy. We've even seen in the US, and I'm curious to see if you see this in India as well, but the Gap is also doing so well right now. And there's a reason for it because we're headed back to like looking at these new kind of classics, these pieces that are our wardrobe staples, to kind of circle back to that conversation of these pieces that you're going to have in your wardrobe for a while, but they feel new and exciting. And maybe you don't have, a denim shirt with a bow at the top of it, or something like that. So I feel like that's one of the most the most commercially viable, but rooted. I think it's something that most of us could get on board with.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice to I would say that's a very important step for that sustainable wardrobe that we were talking about, that we can go on for longer. And I'm so glad and happy to hear this, that this is something that's taking up in the trends, it's so important to give clarity as well, because it just makes you think more leaner if you have a more clear wardrobe.
Yes,
So
yes, and I chose
I'm
that
so
one in particular too because I was thinking, I could give something that we've also seen this maximalism and it's really but it's not for everyone. And
yeah.
so I'm also of the belief, we don't need to shove down trends that just don't work at the end of the day or work only once. So that's why, the new classicism and kind of the reinvention of these staple pieces, this, kind of evolution of quiet luxury, why it is continuing forward in a new lens. And I think it'll resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight. That's gonna be super handy for prepping up for the new season, new year. And okay, so I think this is in continuation. Maybe we can just touch upon it quickly. That we talked about the trend that that might be, that should be, or that would be coming up. So, which, in continuation to that, which upcoming trend do you believe captures the next big psychological shift in the consumer mindset, or is it something that this is this is the one? But how do you think the psychological shift is also, being taken care of?
So the way that I kind of conceptualize like what you're mentioning, like a psychological shift, is also something that's more like a macro culture shift that's how I would leverage it like in forecasting terms. And so one of the things that I feel excited about is what's being called the discovery economy. And this is interesting because I feel like it's entertainment, but it's also very much in line with what you do and identity building. So it's more about kind of finding your own unique style. And I think we're seeing a lot of different kind of tools pop up. There's one that's called FIA, PHIA. It's Bill Gates' daughter formed this app, and it's kind of this app that allows you, whatever branded website you're on, it'll help you find, is that a good price? Is that a good time to buy it? It'll show it on different resale sites if it's available there. I also feel really strongly on a personal level. I love resale. In the US here, I love the Real Real. They're excellent. I shop a lot from them. And I feel like that joy of the hunt is something that really just evokes this discovery economy. So it's like it's finding that special piece that like makes a consumer feel like like this is exactly what I needed, or this is exactly something that I don't have in my wardrobe. It gives them, again, it's like the thrill of the hunt. So whether or not it's in person, like again, I feel like stores that are kind of cultivating something that's new and different. There's this one that I believe they're only US based. They're kind of expanding slowly. It's called Tuckernuck, and they're garnering a lot of attention because they have really good quality staples, but they also have this kind of curatorial lens in which they'll buy other brands, and they could have like a gorgeous gown from someone, and you're just kind of like, and you're like, ooh, what's this? And it feels like a cabinet of curiosities, like you're
Yeah.
discovering something. And I've seen it. When I was in New York City last month, I went into their store and I was like, ooh, this, and it was the busiest store on the Upper East Side. When I went in, I was like, there's a good reason for that because they've curated this and it feels different and special and unique compared to kind of like what's more expected out there. So I feel like regardless if you're shopping in person or if you're shopping online, this notion of discovery is really interesting right now because it, gives consumers, it brings like the individuality back to them. It's not as much about subscribing to whatever hashtag aesthetic is trending at the moment. So I feel really excited about that coming up.
Wow. That's so deep. That's so intentional, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I was just into it listening to what you were saying because it just I think it's more again what all things we were talking about.
Mhm.
That's a lot about yourself. It's a lot
Yeah.
about discovering, and it's so yes, let's see, and I'm very excited to see what's coming up and how we are all gonna implement the trends and especially the psychological macro shifts, or I would say the macro trends getting incorporated in the micro trends too. So let's I'm this is something which is very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. With this, I think we are almost at the last question, which is, I believe, which is something which is like a mixed feeling for all of us. We feel good, but still we feel what if. So, what role do you see AI and data playing in our clothing choices in the future? We all know that there are so many things that we are just getting the answers in like, seconds. So
The
how is
algorithm
it?
is very much alive and well, where it's here. It's here whether we realize it or not. It's behind what shows up on our social feeds. It's behind the clothes that are being designed at a lot of the more mass retailers or mid retailers. So whether or not it's already here, the AI.
Yeah.
But I think that also gives us reason to embrace the more discovery economy and find those special pieces that the algorithm could never predict. I think that's reason behind it, because that's also, for me being a trend person, you're kind of like yes, like it'll get some things and it'll make suggestions, but it's always based on what's been done before. So the human component of us and kind of picking something that it's not going to predict, or a special piece that it's not going to be a part of that algorithm, I think that becomes like the new novelty.
Wow, that's interesting. That's smart.
Mm,
And I think also that's one of the ways to create that newness and difference that we were talking about too.
yes.
That, that sudden, unpredictable thing creates the newness also we all need in our presence. So beautiful. We have that hack now. But
Hopefully.
thank you so much, Melissa. I think you beautifully and very patiently answered all the questions and shared your wisdom, expertise, along with examples and, of course, the researches. So I think it's gonna be like a full packed episode with a lot of takeaways. So, but before ending, let's get onto a little quick rapid fire. Some
Sure.
questions could be about you, some could be about what you think, and some things for what you advise.
Let's
So
do
we
it.
just get on. Yeah, your current go-to outfit on a busy day.
Always a tank top. I love a tank top, a pair of wide leg jeans, and a blazer.
Oh, I can imagine you in that when you were saying. All right, and we would love to have a picture of you in that if you can share. Just something that we can just see
Sure.
while listening to you. Thank you. And what's your mood boosting color for you?
Red, it's always red. But it doesn't have to be a red that you wear in the clothes. It could be a red lipstick. I love a red lip.
Yes, and you look
Everybody looks
gorgeous
great in a red
in
lip.
that.
Everybody.
Yeah, true. And I think in India, especially in India, if you talk about women love red
Yes.
lipsticks, and you can just see it almost on everyone most of the times.
And it's great
So
with
yeah.
dark hair too, like wardrobe
Yeah, the
wise.
depth of it.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. It just goes with the depth of all the deep eyes and the deep
Mhm.
hairs that we have. So yeah, but yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a power color. So okay, a trend that's here to stay. According to you.
A trend that's here to stay. Um, that's you put me on like a hot spot for that one, because I'm always, this is what we have to consider as a trend forecaster. we have to be very cautious of when we say things are happening and when things are not happening. And we're at this moment that so much is very much relevant and will continue to be relevant. Something that's continuing, I feel like that also maybe unexpectedly is considering continuing animal print.
Ooh, that's cool.
Animal print that keeps going, and some people call it a neutral at this point because it's just so widespread.
Wow, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
It's a
Yeah,
little
it's the
bit
new
different
neutral.
from your range of beiges, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I think you have a lot of variety there too. If you start exploring, there's so many options in that too. So yes, that's an interesting one.
Mhm.
A style rule you think everyone should break.
You know what I hate? I hate the magazines that would do the dressing for your age. I hate that. Because it's not okay. Come on. If you feel
Hmm.
comfortable and confident, that's all that matters. So I would say don't pay attention to those articles. You're beautiful in what you feel confident in.
1,000% with you on that. There's no, there's nothing such called as age appropriate styling. It doesn't exist. I think it should go like that
Yep,
to the audience that
agreed.
it doesn't exist. Yes, thank you. I think that was a very strong one, Melissa. Thanks for sharing that insight of yours. A fabric that feels like therapy for you.
Mm. I love when it's hot. I love silk. I love the feel of silk on my skin. I'm also a dress girl. I love a dress. So I love like a silk little dress number. But then in the cooler months, I love a big chunky knit. I love, but above all, natural fibers. I feel like that you just cannot. And and they're more sustainable and everything. So that would be my always natural fibers. I love a silk, cotton, wool.
Beautiful. I think I resonate with you a lot there.
Mm.
Yes, we should go shopping sometime
Would
when we
love
meet.
that.
Confidence in one outfit. What's your answer?
Whew. My
Maybe for you, that works for you.
you know what? I think it's like my go-to, right? Like your go-to outfit is also something that you're confident. But for me, I love a dress. Like I'm a dress girl. So I feel like every opportunity that I have to wear a dress with a pair of heels, like that would be my favorite look or my most confident look.
Wow, yeah, and it's so nice to know what's your confidence outfit, right? It's just something that is like empowerment that you do, that you know that it's just something that's gonna work. And by the way, you look really amazing with those dresses.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Me being that lucky person who has seen Melissa in the on various occasions on her socials and things. So yeah, you just look gorgeous
Thank you.
with
You
all
have
the
to, you know what?
dresses.
You do need to know what works for your body because everybody's got, and once you know how to dress around it, like I happen to have a very short torso, but I've got longer legs. And so you kind of play that up, but then you also have things that you feel comfortable in. And some of my favorite dresses are these silk caftan styles, and I can't get enough of them. They're my favorite. And I will continue to, that's actually a style I will just continue to buy. It doesn't matter if it's in, but it's me. So that's also something that I feel like you could work in fashion and be a fashion forecaster, but you wear something that just feels good to you, that's all that matters. If you're exuding confidence, it doesn't matter if you're on a mood board for spring, summer 26. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a very important input that you shared, that it has to be something that you feel good in and good about, and rest everything falls in place. And I always like saying this, that style is a lot. It's all about balance and proportions. It's just that you need, everyone is beautiful, everyone is unique, everything can look good.
Mhm.
It's just knowing your own right balances and proportions. That's it. And then everything falls in place. So and talking to the kaftan, I think for me it's the longer ones, but I love kaftans like those. And I just can't get done with them. I have enough of them. Sometimes I just wear them to even events. I just do some accessorizing and just make it
Yes.
little, yeah, bolder, but it's just something that feels so
And
comfortable
it's
and flowing.
flattering. It's always, I
Yes.
feel like it's flattering. Like it's like you put that on and it's a sure bet. Like
Yes.
and if it's an event that you're going to be photographed at, you're like, okay, I'm gonna, because other times, even myself, I'll choose something and then you'll go and you'll look at the pictures and you're like, oh, that wasn't the right angle, or it wasn't with the right size. But the caftan dress, we could always get away with that.
Yes, and there's no worry about the angles, or like your anything that it's just some. I think it's one of the perfect no-brainer, no fuss outfit.
I
So
love that we agree on
I'm with you.
that. Next time we're going caftan shopping.
Yes, definitely. That's what that came to my mind, because I resonated with you on the fabrics and when you said kaftan, I was like, oh, this is a great calling now to go for shopping together.
You have to make it
So
happen.
yes, absolutely. All right, so I think with this we almost completed almost uh, all the questions, the rapid fires, and thank you so much for sharing everything with us. So thank you. And before ending, let me thank Melissa with the core of my heart, because one special thing about her is that despite of having so much of wisdom, of course that comes from experience, your past and your current things that you're doing, but the humility that stays within Melissa is something that I think I loved about you even before I met back in 2018. So one, and then that always kept me getting inspired, honestly. And I think that's a beautiful thing to have. So again, I would like to bring this up and say that thank you so much for sharing your advice, your wisdom, and your authentic self with us today. And for me, even back in 2018, when we met, when Melissa was here for various fashion weeks and for the trend presentations where we partnered in India for Fashion Snoops, and it was just lovely to have you here and especially listen to those trend sessions and hearing you live. I think that was a great opportunity for me too. So cheers to that bond and cheers to this episode. And I am very happy to mention that this will be coming out very soon, maybe at the right time of the next year or the new year, which kind of keeps people pumped up with everything new that they need to know for those resolutions and all the newness that's needed. So yeah, thanks again. And anything before saying bye, Melissa, which you would like to address the audience to, or before we stop?
I'd just like to thank you, Ruchi, for having me on. This has been such a wonderful conversation. It reminded me of, again, what both of us, I think we just clicked the first time that we met, and it was fantastic to have that synergy with you and such fantastic questions. I hope everyone enjoys, and thank you again for having me. It was really meaningful.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I think it was great talking to you. Of course, we extended a little bit on the time limit, but thank